Okay, so today, of course, you're all here because we want to talk to you about scholarships. So that's something that's really important, and it's free money for college, right? So if you apply to different scholarships, you have a higher chance of getting free money. So they can be offered to you through like colleges. For some of you that are seniors that are on this call, some of the colleges will provide you with a scholarship. Or have already. And keep in mind that there's different like large companies. So huge companies, I know there's like a Coca-Cola scholarship, there's like a Ronald McDonald scholarship. So companies like that will offer you different opportunities to apply to their scholarships. And then there's also nonprofit scholarships. Fulfillment Fund is actually one, and there's also foundations. So keep in mind, again, this is free money. Some of these scholarships, depending on the amount, can be given to you for like either the first year of college or can be given to you throughout the 4 years that you're in college. So kind of keep that in mind. Some scholarship amounts are going to be bigger, some are going to be smaller, but it really depends on the organization or like the company that's giving you the scholarship. So today we're going to cover a little bit about the different types of scholarships, and I'll kind of go into that in a second. We're also going to talk about the differences between how you should be writing your essays and how you should be breaking it down for scholarships. So when you're applying to them, how to best apply to them and what to input in your essays. And then we'll talk a little bit more about like the letters of recommendation and why that's important. And of course, the most important thing of how to search for scholarships and where to go to search for them. So keep in mind that there are different types of scholarships. There's local scholarships, and these are more within your area. A lot of you that are attending either RFK or Hamilton, some of you may find different scholarships that your college counselor or that your high school counselor will present to you. And these are more local scholarships. So these are scholarships that you can find within your area because of the school that you are attending. And the benefits of this, of course, include that there's less applicants, it's a little less competitive, and you do have a greater chance of getting the scholarship. So keep in mind that these scholarships also do have an application process. So with the local scholarships, it's pretty much similar to the national scholarships in the sense of, you know, you have to apply, you have to write a short like essay, letters of recommendation. So it's pretty similar. The only difference is that they are local. Then there's also, of course, the national scholarship. So these scholarships are on a larger scope. So you are competing with a lot more students. But one example of like the national scholarships would be either like the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, different scholarships in that sense that, you know, you can search on websites. Like if you can see on the right-hand side, Unigo, which is a really great scholarship search engine. And there you can find a lot of different national scholarships. So these scholarships, again, can be found using online resources. So Unigo, there's also college scholarship searches. There's like Big Future, so you can also search different scholarships there. And we'll provide a lot of different search engines coming up. But just kind of keep that in mind as we're discussing like what types of scholarships you should be applying to. So as we mentioned, there are a lot of different variety of scholarships. And there's also a lot of fun ones that you can be applying to. So please take advantage of that. So there are different academic achievement scholarships. There's scholarships that focus on community service. There's also different athletic scholarships. So for all of you athletes, if you are interested in applying to those scholarships, please kind of keep that in mind. There's different scholarships based off of your hobbies, your traits. So if you are more in the arts and you want to like do a scholarship for that, I know that there's a scholarship which is Doodle for Google, and if you're artsy and you like to draw, you pretty much can come up with a design for them that they'll post on like the Google site, and with that, you know, the winner gets, I forgot the exact amount, but the winner will receive a scholarship, and then your design will be displayed on the Google site. So kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot of different fun ones. Another fun one is Stuck at Prom. I'm not sure if a lot of you have heard of this one, but this is more for students that would like to create their own prom outfits. So if you can see on the right-hand side, these are all made out of duct tape. So it's all made out of tape. You can get really creative, and the best outfits pretty much win money for college. So, I mean, if you can see, they're pretty creative. They don't even look like they're made out of duct tape, but students get really, really creative in actually designing their outfits. So keep that in mind, that there are a lot of fun ones out there. Again, there's some that are based off of like financial needs. So depending on, you know, if you have like a huge gap in financial aid, or if you're really worried about having to pay for college and you don't necessarily have the funds, keep in mind that there are also financial needs scholarships. So if you come from like a low income family, you can always apply for the HSF, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, and then there are also other ones as well. There's also a Dell Scholarship, which this is something that we really do promote to Fulfillment Fund students, because for Dell, we do have a partnership with them. And this scholarship is a really great one. If you do receive it, you do get a Dell laptop, and you also get money for college. So keep that in mind. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go to common scholarship criteria. So keep in mind, as you are applying to scholarships, that you do need some information in order to complete the application. So there is like no one scholarship for everyone, right? There's a lot of different scholarships that you can be applying to. And it also depends on the eligibility. So some require different GPAs. They do require like a high school transcript. Sometimes they'll make you input your grades in the application. They also require letters of recommendation. So that usually varies per scholarship. Some of them will require 2 letters, some of them will require 1. It's also really good to kind of have your brag sheet handy. So your brag sheet, for those of you that may not know what that is, that's pretty much a space for you to brag about yourself, in a sense. So to write out and outline like any awards that you've received, any activities that you've been a part of. So it's really good to just have that on a sheet, a brag sheet, for instance, and then you can have that while you're working through, and this applies to like even like college applications, but while you're working through the scholarship application, make sure you have your brag sheet handy. Another reason for the brag sheet is to share it with your recommenders. So when you're asking teachers and other like counselors, coaches for letters of recommendation, you can share your brag sheet with them so they can provide a little more information to the scholarship that you're applying for. Also, essays. Keep in mind that essays are important, are usually a huge part of the scholarship process. So we want to make sure that you take time writing out the essay, and a lot of times, which we'll kind of go into a little more later, but a lot of times if you are applying to scholarships and you have already applied to your colleges, you should have like an outline of the essays that you use for your colleges, and you can kind of reuse that, edit it to make it fit into the scholarship prompt. Also, parent income. So this is something that the scholarships will usually ask you for, just so they know, especially the need-based scholarships. So just so they know how much, you know, your family income is, and so they know if you need the scholarship or how much you would need from the scholarship. All right, so don't forget the most important thing when applying to these scholarships are the deadlines. So you need to make sure, especially if you're applying to quite a few of them, that you're aware of the deadline for each of the scholarships. So it's extremely important. Keep in mind that some scholarships will take a little longer because the application might be a little longer. So if you need to enter or provide more information, just make sure that you make enough time before the deadline to apply to the scholarship. And most deadlines occur during the academic school year between September and May. So there are still some that are open right now. But as you're searching for them, keep in mind that you can search for them, and a lot of scholarships are open throughout the school year that you should be applying to. All right, so when it comes to transcripts, this is something that's really important when it comes to applying to the scholarship. So as one of the requirements, a lot of the scholarships will have a GPA requirement. So kind of keep that in mind. You can always ask your high school counselor to provide you with an unofficial transcript so you can follow along with like your grades and understand like what your GPA is at the moment that you're applying. A lot of the scholarships will also ask you to submit an official transcript. So that's something that needs to be sealed and it needs to be sent from your school. You can also send it out yourselves, but usually it's better for the school to send it, so your high school. And then, yeah, the school can give you your transcript. And if you send it and it's sealed, do not open the envelope. So make sure that if it's an official transcript, it stays sealed as you are sending it out.
Hi everyone, my name is Jane Ramirez. I'm the College Access Advisor at Sabal for 9th grade and Hamilton for 9th through 11th grade. And I am going to introduce you guys to the scholarship criteria of essays. So most scholarships will require an essay option, an essay portion, and they'll ask you a guiding question or multiple guiding questions. You may be asked to respond in one large essay or respond in several short answer questions. And this is because scholarship providers want to know like the real person who is applying to their scholarship. And then you can think of essay prompts as an invitation to self-reflect and share your story. So think about maybe what has happened in your life that has shaped your thinking, maybe your passions, your character, or future plans. Your essay responses should include clear examples and stories that highlight why you are the right fit for a scholarship. So remember that a lot of the scholarships will receive hundreds, if not thousands, of submissions. And you need to think about what's going to set you apart from all of those other applicants. And when I say hundreds and thousands, like I don't want to discourage you guys. There are also so many scholarships out there that go unclaimed, like nobody applies to them. So just keep that in mind. And when you're writing your essay, make sure that you show the reader that you don't simply just tell them. So make sure you're describing or narrating a story and not simply just stating facts. So for example, say that you are somebody who's interested in becoming a veterinarian. So maybe this was influenced by, maybe you took your dog who you love very much, you know, to the vet, and you kind of understood that there was something wrong with your dog, but you didn't quite know what. And then when you took them to the vet, you were maybe really captivated by the vet's ability to identify, you know, the cause of the problem with your dog. And then that really sparked your interest maybe in understanding more about biology and like how the body heals and things like that. So make sure that you are like painting or like narrating a story as you are writing these essays. Make sure that when you're writing these essays that you're focusing on yourself. Sometimes you'll be asked to talk about maybe somebody who has influenced you or who has motivated you in pursuing certain goals. But make sure that your responses always circle back to you, because you know you are going to be the person who's going to be awarded this money. So think about, yes, if you have somebody who has been super influential in your life, think about how maybe they have motivated you and influence your personal growth and motivated you maybe in accomplishing different things that maybe you didn't think were possible before. So always make sure that you're circling back to yourself. Sometimes we think that, you know, the things that we experience in our everyday lives, that they are no big deal, that they're average. But the truth is that there are things that are impressive, that are impactful and unique about you. So it's really important that you highlight those in your essays. So I can give you an example. So when we look at the first bullet point here, it says a defining moment that changed your perspective. Many years ago, I worked with a student who, unfortunately, her mother got really sick when she was in middle school. And before her mother got sick, she, let's say, she was the type of student who like challenged everybody, who didn't really want to do what she was being asked to do. And when her mother got sick, that really just changed her completely. Like it really pushed her to work, to utilize her skills in different ways. And she really became a leader after that. Something else that you may think that is just, no big deal is something that you've already been doing or that has been happening over time. And, like you don't think it's a big deal, but it is. Earlier, Miss Mari, who you'll hear from in a little bit, she shared a story about a student who she has worked with who apparently took the bus for like 2 hours to get to school. And to him, this was normal because he thought like, well, everybody takes the bus. What's so like extraordinary or impressive about that? But, while yes, people take the bus every single day, they might not take it for 2 hours. So that really speaks to maybe the commitment that that student had, to attend school and things like that. So really think about like your everyday life and what you do, and why you do these things. So some of the questions that we would like you to reflect on as you begin your scholarship search are: what has made you who you are today? What has happened in your life so far that has shaped you? What have you done? Have you been involved in any community extracurricular activities or any school activities? What is unique about you? Are you the first person in your family to go to college? Are you a student who identifies maybe as queer? Are you a student who comes from a low income family? So think about those things. Think about what you enjoy doing and why. If you are somebody who is into the arts, like why do you think that is? Like what is the feeling that you get when you're doing, art related things? When you're thinking about your future, what are your goals? Why are these goals important to you? And when you're looking for scholarships, think about why you need these scholarships. Why will this make a difference for you in your future? And then lastly, how do you feel when you're going through a specific challenge? Maybe this challenge has already happened, so maybe reflect back on that feeling that you had when this was happening. So we've identified here 4 themes, but there are scholarship prompts on various different themes, but we'll talk about 4 for now. So one of them is leadership. So they'll probably want to know how you have been a leader within your school or maybe your local community. So maybe if you are, in student government, if you're the president of, student government, talk about what that experience has been like. Maybe you're going to write an essay about adversity, and they'll want you to describe an obstacle that you have overcome, maybe academically, maybe personally, financially. So reflect on that. And then also maybe you'll be writing an essay about motivation. So, and they'll ask why you're interested maybe in pursuing a particular career or major. So really think about what has happened that has really motivated you to pursue that specific career. And then there are merit scholarships. So think about why you deserve a specific scholarship. How would this scholarship help you in achieving your goals? Maybe think about also like the amount of work that you put into like your grades, all of that. Reflect on all of that. Awesome. So this is something that Diane talked about or touched on briefly earlier. And this is that sometimes you may see a lot of similar prompts, and you can adapt your essays to answer these questions without having to totally rewrite new essays. So for example, we have 3 examples here. So one is an EOP question from the CSUs. Another is a college prompt from the PIQs for the UCs. And then the third question here is one that we found from a scholarship prompt. So I'm going to go through them. and then go over the underlying questions of each of these prompts. So for the first one, briefly discuss your academic background. Did you utilize any additional support at your high school, such as tutoring? Do your grades in high school and/or college reflect your academic ability or potential? That's the first one. Second question is asking you to describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier. And then the third prompt is asking you to tell them about a time when you failed at something. What were the circumstances? How did you respond to failure? What lessons did you learn? So the underlying questions here are, how have you used the academic resources to improve your grades or to challenge yourself in school? The second underlying question is, what was this experience like and what did you learn from it? And so some potential answers might include you maybe sought tutoring, or you took AP courses, or you went to your teacher's office hours because you weren't quite clear on a specific topic that was covered in class. Maybe you participated in an academic program like Fulfillment Fund or Gear Up, or maybe even outside of school. And then the second potential answer is to reflect on how you felt. Maybe you were feeling frustrated, right? That's a common feeling that we might experience when we are experiencing like a challenge. And then did this motivate you? Did this, lead you to give up? And then, or is this something that led you to advocate for yourself, to learn to speak up and seek support?
Okay. So first and foremost, you have the essay prompt. So some essay prompts may have multiple questions within it, as we saw with the EOP question in the last slide. So be sure to break down the prompt and know exactly what is being asked. So if it's a question that actually has 3 questions within it, make sure you separate them out so that you know exactly what is being asked of you. Then brainstorm. So brainstorm by jotting down some quick bullet points if that's what works for you, creating a bubble map if that's more of your organizational style, or if you don't really want to write things down and you're more of the type of person who likes to speak everything out loud first, then you can speak it out loud and record yourself to write it down at a later point. The whole point, or the main goal of brainstorming, is basically to get all your ideas out on paper. Just basically throw everything out there, all your thoughts and ideas. After that, you can pick and choose which ones answer the question best, and you can create an outline to organize your essay. So traditionally, for those of you who are maybe in 9th and 10th grade or still kind of becoming more familiar with how to structure and organize your essays, this could mean an introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. If you're someone who's maybe in 11th and 12th grade, or you're more of an experienced writer, you can have more than 3 body paragraphs. This is just a basic layout that could work for you. So this is an example of a brainstorm simple bubble map. So on the left-hand side, we have just, you would put the question in the center, and then all the answers that come immediately to your mind, you would have in little smaller circles around that question. So on the right-hand side, we see, why do you want to go to college? And this student answered, I want to have more career options, learn specific skills that I enjoy, learn more about the world, have a fulfilling career helping others, and have a high-paying career or have financial security. Basically, getting a job that pays well and one that they enjoy. So this is an example of a simple bubble map just to get your ideas out on paper. This is the basic essay structure that I mentioned before, with your introduction, 3 body paragraphs or more, and a conclusion. So one key takeaway to have is you want to avoid writing your paper or structuring your essay to be too formal. So you don't want to take on the English class style kind of paper. It's okay to say I statements, to talk about yourself, to talk about you in the first person, and to have a more conversational or casual tone. Remember, you're sharing your story and you know your story best. So it's kind of as if you were telling this to one of the essay readers in person. Mind you, you still want to have correct grammar and spelling, but it takes on a more conversational tone. If the essay prompt includes smaller questions, so as I mentioned before, if this is a prompt with 3 questions within it, you can dedicate answering one of those questions to each paragraph. And ultimately, be sure to explain the significance of your supporting details. So whatever you're answering to that question, you should also be able to answer, so what? Why does it matter? Why does it matter that the student mentioned earlier, why does it matter that they took the bus 2 hours to school to get there and 2 hours to get home from school? Why does that matter? How did that impact him? What impact did that have on his ability to participate in after-school clubs or his motivation to keep doing well in school? So ultimately, you should be answering, why does it matter? This is an example of that breakdown on a flow chart. So in the center, we have a pink sticky note, and the question is, describe an event that made a big impact throughout your life. And their main thesis or their main response is that this student immigrated from El Salvador, which is a country in Central America, to the US at age 15. So that is their main overarching response. And they broke that up into 3 quote unquote paragraphs. So the first one is that they were living in a single parent household in the US. They were an English as a second language learner, and they were low income. So then it branches out to talk about more details, what happened because of those things. So if we're looking on the bottom where it says low income, well, the student helped their mom clean houses on the weekends to help her work faster and make more money. And they didn't have resources at home, such as a laptop to complete their homework assignments. So they sometimes stayed after school instead to use the computer, maybe in the counseling office or wherever computers were available on campus. But why do those things matter? Why does it matter that this student immigrated and was low income? What impact did it have on them, and how did they grow? So if we look here on the last part, it says learn to be resourceful and took advantage of school opportunities like college trips. So this person is now more resourceful. They know to turn to people for help, and they know that there are other opportunities out there for them as well. If we follow the yellow map where it says English as a second language, the details they provided was, I did not speak English, which meant dedicating extra time to homework and tutoring. And the second one, I had to learn English to translate important documents during doctor's appointments and parent-teacher meetings. So what does this ultimately mean? Why do those things matter? This taught me to ask important questions, speak up, and learn how things work. Essentially, they learned how to advocate for themselves, to speak up when they needed to. Even though that was a challenge and a barrier, they're still getting through it. And the last one, single parent household. So this would be their third body paragraph, maybe their first one, however they structured it. It says, mom has a 5th grade education from El Salvador, works as a seamstress, house cleaner, and babysitter to pay rent and bills, which means the mom can't help with schoolwork. She's busy working, and her education, maybe she doesn't have the knowledge base to help out her kid with biology classes, for example. The second point is, I was tasked with responsibilities at home, such as cleaning, babysitting, and helping cook. So what does this all mean? Why does it matter? The ultimate impact it had. I saw my mom working so hard that I knew I had to go to college because I wanted my life to be different. Now I am more independent, responsible, and driven. So you can see here, it starts off with a main response to the main question. It branches out into 3 overarching points, and then it breaks down with smaller details and what came of it. Why does it matter? So some tips for writing your essay. Definitely know the essay instructions. There will likely be guidelines for how long your essay should be. So maybe it's 3 or 4 pages, maybe it's only 2 pages. There'll usually be instructions for how long it should be or what your word count is. The format as well. So if you're talking about a single paragraph or double space, I should say. Font style, so Times New Roman, maybe 12-point font, and the document type. Are you submitting it as a PDF file or a Word document? Are you submitting this within the application online? Is it even an online application? Do you have to mail it in instead? So it's good to know how you're actually going to submit this essay. It's also helpful to read the About Us section of the organization that's awarding the scholarship. So this could mean checking out the About Us section if you're applying to the Coca-Cola scholarship, checking out their website. If it means you're applying to the Fulfillment Fund the Fulfillment Fund scholarship, check out our About Us section to see what we are all about. This will give insight into what that organization values, what's important to them, and you could include those keywords in your own essay responses as well. And lastly, have someone else proofread your essay. They might catch some mistakes that you missed, offer feedback, offer you pointers on how to structure your essay, but you definitely want to limit this to 2 people. You want this to be your story. It's from your perspective. If you have too many hands and eyes on your essay, then it starts to become molded in a different way where it's not necessarily your original work. So you want to make sure that you're limiting that so that you're not getting overwhelmed with too much feedback, but you're still catching all those little common spelling mistakes and things like that. Letters of recommendation. So scholarships also often ask for students to submit letters of rec. So these letters are essentially a letter that a person that you have selected will send in on your behalf to talk about all of your great qualities and traits. They're essentially vouching for you. So it should usually come from someone who can talk about your work ethic, so how hard and focused you are, your academic potential, or your character. So this can also include your teachers, counselors, principals, folks from Fulfillment Fund, such as your counselors at Fulfillment Fund, your academic advisors at Fulfillment Fund. If it is an athletic scholarship, maybe your coach can speak more to your athletic performance and your commitment to the team. Lastly, it's important to ask for letters of rec ahead of time. I've seen this before where students may ask a counselor for a letter of recommendation the day before it's due. It puts a lot of stress on the student themselves, but also on the counselor too. So at the very latest, a 2-week notice. What would be better is a month's notice. That way you give yourself time to focus on all of your other materials that you want to submit for the scholarship. And it also gives the counselor or teacher or principal or advisor a head start on writing that letter of rec on your behalf too. You want to give them time to create an awesome letter of recommendation for you.
All right, awesome. So something that may help your recommender write this recommendation letter for you will be a brag sheet. And if you're a junior, you may have already filled this out. If you're a senior, you definitely filled this out already. But if you're a freshman or a sophomore, you haven't seen this yet. So what is a brag sheet? A brag sheet is basically a document that helps you showcase your best self. So this is a document where you can showcase any accomplishments, any key experiences, leadership skills, or employment throughout your high school career. You can use this as a quick reference when you're filling out scholarships. If you are being asked like how you've been involved, like this is a document you can look at and quickly find this information. If you're filling out financial aid, any college applications or job applications. So it helps your recommenders gain a little bit more insight and context as to who you are and be able to write a better recommendation letter on your behalf. Can I have the next slide, please? And now we'll talk a little bit more about what you should include in this brag sheet. So you should include basic information like your name, your full first and last name, don't use your nickname, and your contact information. So for this, it's important to note that you should have a professional email, an email that includes like your first and last name or your first initial and last name or a combination of some like that. So don't use, if you have like an email that is like coolboy19, create a new one because you'll probably be applying to college with this email or jobs with this email. And so it just doesn't look very professional to use coolboy19. So it also includes your academic information, such as your GPA, your test scores, like your SAT or ACT test scores, any honors or AP courses you've taken throughout high school. In this brag sheet, you're also going to note down your interests and different strengths. What are things that you excel in? Also, it's an opportunity for you to write down certain life events or circumstances that have impacted you personally and academically. As we are in school, life continues to happen, and there's a lot of things that really shape us during these years. So it's important to note those down. And any extracurricular activities that you may have been involved in. So if you were maybe in the at Sava, I know that there's like a gaming club, or if you were like in Folklorico at Hamilton, or an ASB, or a fulfillment fund, if you had any, if you were in our enrichment programs, write those in. And then also employment, any employment that you have had so far. I know maybe you're in 9th grade, this might not apply to you, but you do, a lot of times you do things that would count kind of as employment or commitment, like if you're a babysitter for your family or things like that, that also counts. But I do know a 9th grader who does have a job as a dishwasher, so he could definitely include that in there. And any honors awards, any honors or awards that you have received, maybe you're in honor roll, or you received, you know, an award for being an exceptional athlete or something like that. Those are definitely things that you can include.
And I want to talk to you all about search engines, right? So we now know the components, right? Everything you need to do that you might be required to submit in an application. But I want to talk about a little bit about where you find these scholarships, right? So we're going to focus more on the bigger, more national scholarships. And there are some advantages to these, right? The number one advantage is that you can search for them from home, right? And now that we're at home most of the time, this is going to be very beneficial for us. You can find in these search engines, you can find scholarships that are need-based. You can filter through different criteria, right? So if you're looking for scholarships based on your hobbies, need-based, or those athletes that are joining us, you can tailor them to your specific needs. So they'll what you'll see is that a lot of these search engines, they share a lot of the same scholarships. So you can find a scholarship on one, and then it's actually going to take you and link you to another scholarship organization. So this is we'll see this in real time to make more sense. But you'll create a profile, and then you can list your grades, your college aspirations, your interests, skills, and all of the legitimate search engines are free. So there should be at no point where you're paying any money to search for scholarships, right? Other things to consider, this can be time consuming. I've read a lot of information, and students who've been successful is that they treat this like a part-time job, right? They're really active, searching for scholarships, applying to scholarships, keeping track of the scholarships they've applied to. This can all be very time consuming, so do keep that in mind. We got some good advice at the beginning about tracking those, so definitely take that into consideration so that you know what you've applied to, and kind of modify those template essays that you've already created to help you submit more of these scholarships in a quicker way. And then keep in mind that these scholarships are attracting students from across the country. So as a product of that, they're going to be more competitive in some cases, not in all cases, but usually the scholarships require the less effort from students, more students apply to them. So that's something to consider as well. And then some of the smaller scholarships that you find like in your school counseling office or in the fulfillment fund office at your school, is that you might not find those, right? Those are typically like the paper applications. You're not going to find those on some of these search engines. And then unfortunately, Dreamers are not eligible for every scholarship. So it's really important to read some of the criteria for these scholarships so that you know that you're applying to one that you have a chance to get into. And remember, never pay a fee for anything relating to scholarships. So some of the recommended scholarships that we have here, we have capex.com, Unigo, getschool.com, and scholarshipexperts.com. These are only a few. There's scholarships.com. There's a ton, and really the goal is to find scholarships that fit your needs, not look for so much the quality, but rather the ones that you can that can apply to you. And one way to do this is actually by following these organizations, their social media links. So they'll post what scholarships are going up, and keep in mind the busiest times of year are going to be throughout the academic school year, so from September to May. So keep in mind to look for those look for these search engines on social media so that you can stay up to date with the most current application. And then these do have strict deadlines, so it's ever more important that you're following them and staying up to date with that. So for students of color, so for students who have an ethnic background outside of North American, so Mexican in my case, these are some other potential places to find scholarships that are targeted for that specific group. We have Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. We have the Asian Pacific Fund, American Indian College Fund, Asian and Pacific Islander Scholarship Fund, and the Hispanic Scholarship Foundation, right? So we have a wide variety of places where you can look for scholarships and find the one that fits you. You know, is it merit-based? Is it community service-based? Is it based on a financial need, right? You're going to find that in here in the descriptions. For students who are worried about, oh, this is a lot of information, where can we access this later? We're going to put this presentation up on our Google Classroom. So please, if you haven't already joined, please join so that you can have access to all of this information, and you can use all the links and copy them to your own research page, or just copy the whole presentation so you can use these links when you're applying for scholarships as well. So you're ready. You know you're going to be applying to scholarships. Some last minute things to keep in mind. These scholarship search engines are going to have thousands, if not millions, of scholarships, thousands for sure. And not everyone is going to be the one that fits you. There's going to be certain restrictions on, for instance, the field of study that you want to. So it could be for a graduating senior, but who wants to study biology, or a graduating senior who wants to go into education, right? So there's going to be different fields. So not every scholarship is going to fit your specific situation. And then some scholarships are for certain regions. So for students who are in California, right, or Northern California, or in the Midwest, right, like Illinois and Chicago. So it's going to vary. So keep that in mind. There isn't one single. There aren't thousands of scholarships for each student. You're going to have to kind of sift through and see which ones work for you. So I want to go briefly into one of the search engines that we've talked about, Unigo, and I want to point out a few things for students when they go, because I know that if you're seeing these search engines for the first time, it could be a little intimidating. You might not know what to look for, and so I want to point out a few things. This is going to be our page. There's going to be a lot of the information that they post. The one thing I want to first start off by making note of is the advertisements. Some companies are better than others, but all are going to have advertisements like this right here, enter to win. Just keep in mind, if you give your information, they could be spamming your email, or just kind of tracking your movements online. So keep that in mind. We can see that Unigo covers colleges, scholarships. It has a category for easy scholarships, monthly. Again, this is going back to our deadlines, your monthly scholarships, and then just additional resources. So what I want us to look at is briefly is our scholarship directory. So if we go here, we could kind of take a look at some scholarships that are available to students. Also keep in mind, if you want to apply to these scholarships, they are going to require you to create an account with them. So one of the great recommendations that Ms. Diane had for us is to maybe use an email that isn't your professional email. So maybe one that's separate. So if you're getting updates on these, they're not messing up with like important information from schools, from your classes, or any just general updates that you want to have, just in case you don't want it to clutter your email. So if we go here, we could see different criteria, so athletic, college-specific, merit-based scholarships for your academics. But for me, I'm interested in minority scholarships. So I'm going to go ahead and click minority scholarships. And what we're going to have here is a presentation of the different scholarships available. Now, the work for you all students to do is to read these descriptions. So who are they for? All scholarships are going to have a description like this. You're going to read through that. This is the title. This is the description. And if this is what fits your needs, if this is what fits who you are, then you're going to go ahead and view the scholarship and pay attention to that. There's scholarship by major, scholarship by type. There's a ton of scholarships here available. Again, over here, this is not part of the website. This is an advertisement. So do your best to avoid clicking onto these links that can take you to another portion of the website. This goes for this one here. This is another scholarship website, niche. And if you apply now, it's going to take you out of this website. So keep that in mind when you're searching for scholarships. You can always go into here. So we're going to view more scholarships for minority students. And then we can see here, right? So now we're looking at African American scholarships, okay, Hispanic scholarships. Well, that would be me. So I would click on here. And now I'm looking here. Get familiar with this. This is going to be the award total, the deadlines, and then how to apply those scholarships. You'd go here. Again, right-hand side, ton of advertisements. Here's what is going to take you all a little bit of time to make sure that these scholarships fit your needs. But if you create an account with them, that you can filter specific criteria. So you only want athletic scholarships, or you only want need-based scholarships, or only for hobbies and interests, right? You have control over that. This is that website. If you all have further questions about navigating these, I encourage you all to reach out and allow us to help you in that process. Some current scholarships that you might have already received an email about. We have an ninth grade scholarship, the BP Odds. We have the Brian Cameron Educational Foundation Scholarship for 11th graders. That's going to be due at the end of this month. The Full Circle Scholarship due at the end of the month. And this is for students who identify as American Indian. The K. Longcomb Scholarship Award. This is for seniors who identify as people of color, LGBTQ, and pursuing journalism. Again, going back to that specific criteria. Jack and Jill American Foundation. And then again, we're encouraging students, if you're going to be a rising senior, look out for the Dell Scholarship so that you can apply. And since we do have the relationship with Dell, we're familiar with it and we can support you in that process. Keep in mind, going back to what I said, these are more local scholarships and they are going to be in paper form a lot of time. So this might require mailing things out in the mail. I don't know how many of you have actually mailed something, but I've encountered many seniors that have not mailed anything or very few things, and they struggle with this process. Again, we can support you in that process if you are lost. And just to conclude, if you all have specific questions for your counselors or your advisors, our information is here.